Hey girl, are your healthy habits all over the place or non-existent? Do you wish you could find true food freedom, move your body for joy, and really just talk a little nicer to yourself? If you have tried to habit hack your health, but the strategies you've tried just haven't worked for you in your busy lifestyle, then this podcast is for you. Hey, I'm Emily Nichols, habit and fitness coach, behavior change specialist, and Taco Tuesday enthusiast. Hey, I am here to tell you there is an easier way than what we've been taught about our health and our habits. How do I know? Well, because I've transformed my own life through habit hacking, and now my family gets the best of me, and I now help my clients do the same. I'm now going to teach you how to create healthy habits in less time, guilt-free for all seasons of your life. It's not your fault your habits haven't worked, my friend. We just have to do them differently. So, are you ready to feel empowered and transform your habits and life? Then let's do this. Hey friend, welcome to Habit Hack Thursday. Y'all, today is the last day of the month, and I'm just so grateful that you are here and that you are listening to the show. Our downloads each month are just exploding, and it makes me think back to when I started this show 4 years ago, because it was 4 years ago this August. And I was so excited to get like 100 people listening. That wasn't just like my best friend and like me and my mom listening to everything. So I really appreciate you being on this journey here with me together. We're in this together, my friend. Like, I follow the systems that I teach here and really understand, just as a fitness and wellness professional and as a habit coach, behavior change specialist, habit geek, whatever you want to say, why women have to do habits differently. And my friend, I'm just so grateful you're here and that you're listening and that you get value from this show. If you do love the show, I would love it if you would leave a quick sentence or two in iTunes, leave a 5-star review. I'm almost at 100 reviews. I haven't asked you guys for a review in a long time. I'd love to get to 100 reviews just because it makes it easier for more friends to find the show. So go leave your review. I'd so appreciate it. And you can even share a screenshot of it and tag me in your Instagram stories at Emily Nichols 22. Okay, so let's talk about today's habit hack. We're talking about movement. We're talking about, should you close your rings? If you're like, I don't know what you're talking about. So I was kind of planning on this episode, and I just love it when things come together. So let's talk about it. So I know many of us have Apple Watches. I have one. My oldest son has one. And I know a lot of us have fitness trackers that give us different milestones to reach throughout the day, like a 10K step goal or like movement goal, calorie burn, so on and so forth. And I do get a little thrill out of closing my rings each day, right? I have that as my home screen on my phone. And like I said, I had already planned on talking about this today and closing your rings, but then I heard a girlfriend mention closing her rings the other day and how she had to be okay with not closing her rings each day while on a work trip and out of like her normal healthy routine, and how much anxiety that maybe gave her, but she had to learn to like, okay, let it go and be okay. Y'all, I feel like we can all really relate to this. I even have seen like shirts like just here to close my rings or whatever when I've coached a live class. I think that's so funny. But if you're not sure what I'm talking about, so on the Apple Watch, there's 3 activity rings, with red ring being calories burned for the day, green is your exercise ring, and blue is a stand goal and just saying that you've moved at least 1 minute each hour. These are kind of like preset in like your Apple Watch or like the health area. And I feel like it kind of changes a little bit, maybe just based on the own data that you provide, like as far as like steps and movement that you do each day. And I really feel like this could motivate somebody. And I think there's some really great notifications on the Apple Watch that are really great habit hacks to get you to get moving. But on the flip side, I really feel like this can derail someone. There's such a fine line. Like, hello, like you're trying to reach 10K steps and you're like walking laps around your bedroom before bed, like in your jammies when you're that close. Hi, that's me. I just want to get to 10,000 steps. I don't know why it's such an arbitrary number, but I'm like, okay, I've moved my body today. Especially if I have like a big podcasting day or like interviews, I'm stuck behind my laptop all day. I got to get up and get moving, and my watch is good for that. But days where where I'm not able to, I have to learn to give myself a little grace, right? And I think there's for sure some big benefits of closing your rings, but there's also some cons. So we're going to talk about the benefits and the cons of closing your rings if you have an Apple Watch. And we're going to talk about habit loops for each. A habit loop for a con and a habit loop for a benefit of closing your rings on your Apple Watch. If you don't have an Apple Watch, I'm so sorry, but this can still apply to you with any type of fitness tracker you use. I'm just using close your rings because I figure most people have an Apple Watch, and honestly, I'm relating to you based on my own experience as well. So let's talk about the cons. This can be a very motivating, or it can be really obsessive for some people. And that's the first thing I want to talk about is obsessive behavior. You may be just so overly focused on closing your rings. It can lead to unhealthy exercise habits, like pushing yourself too hard, ignoring rest days, or sacrificing just proper recovery. Like, girl, I don't want you to get hurt. Sometimes it has unrealistic goals, right? Maybe Apple Watch has set default goals based on like general recommendations, but maybe it's not suitable for you. So maybe you have a different fitness level, or you have a medical condition or limitations, and it might find it to be difficult or even harmful for you to consistently meet those default goals. We want to avoid injury and not pushing ourselves too much. Maybe it's causing a little stress or anxiety, right? The pressure to meet these daily goals can put so much pressure on yourself and cause stress and anxiety, especially if they perceive themselves falling short as a failure, right? My son, I don't know how he did it. Like, I'm so old now. He set up where I can see when he's closed his rings on my phone. And I know a lot of people do like closing your ring challenges as well. And that can really induce a bunch of stress and anxiety if you're like doing it as an accountability challenge with people. Comparison, social pressure. And just keeping in mind that you are your own person and your lifestyle may not align well with the prescribed goals with closing your rings. Okay, you might have a sedentary job where you just cannot get up and move your booty every day like you would want to. So you have to adapt and figure out a different way. And I don't want you to have the Apple Watch there as a constant reminder of you failing, right? You can use it as a tool to promote a healthy lifestyle rather than a strict rule to be followed at all costs, right? If closing rings become problematic, I would see if you can adjust the goals. I think you can Google and like figure out how to adjust like your move, your calorie and stand goals for the day. Listen to your body and just prioritize overall health for yourself, right? If it persists, I'm pretty sure there's a way to even turn off notifications and be like, I don't need to see my rings ever again if it's too triggering for you. Now, let's talk about some benefits. I think closing your rings on your Apple Watch can have some positive aspects as well. I think you just got to know yourself, right? This kind of reminds me of when we talked about tracking macros and like tracking your food. There's pros and cons for both. You have to kind of meet yourself in the middle and kind of know yourself. So let's talk about the benefits. So definitely increased physical activity, right? The daily rings encourage you to move more, exercise, stand up, get your butt out of your seat. And this can really combat the negative effects of a sedentary lifestyle, such as like weight gain or muscle weakness. You can have goals, right? Goals and achievements. So like having that visual representation of rings being closed provides a sense of accomplishment, right? A little bit more motivation. So the gamification of it, like I said, is really, really fun. And the challenge of completing the rings each day encourages you to find ways to incorporate more physical activity. Maybe a little bit more awareness. You're like, well, dang, I have barely moved my body today. Like, here's what the data is telling me. That's good too. Next, accountability. So sharing that activity data with friends can give you a little accountability as well. Like I said, my son has set that up. Like he almost always gets his move goal because he golfs and he like walks 10 million steps a day at school and on the golf course too. But he's like, Mom, you're always closing your rings. Well, especially on days where I coach, I walk 10 million miles and move my body a lot too. Maybe it's more about health tracking. So it offers other health-related features on the Apple Watch, such as like heart rate monitoring and sleep tracking, which I think are good to keep in mind as well, and just your overall well-being. So do this with a balanced perspective. Is this motivating or demotivating for you to close your rings? I'm a big fan of tracking data. I'm not a big fan of obsessing over data. You know, when we talk about habit tracking, when we launched the Ultimate Habit Tracker, our new digital habit tracker a couple weeks ago, I'm a big fan of tracking habits. And in an episode, we were talking about, well, how long do you track your habits? I'm like, until you don't have to track them anymore. And you don't even realize it happens, right? It just becomes an unconscious behavior. I'm not obsessed with it. It's just happening. And that's what I would love for you to happen if you are using the Apple Watch as a motivator for you to move your body, or maybe it's a demotivator and you need to see if you can turn those notifications or remove it from your watch where you don't see it. So how do we find a middle ground? How do we find a middle ground? Part of the accelerator habit hacking system that I teach inside of that program is to have grace and capacity habits in mind. Since women have to do habits differently and not every day will go according to plan, right? We find a middle ground by using the cues to get us up and get us moving. We use capacity habits on the days where we're like, I'm just not going to get 30 minutes of activity today, but I can at least do like a 5-minute stretch from my Peloton app before I go to bed and retrain my brain that I'm doing something, which is better than nothing, right? That's atomic habits for women right there for you, friends. And there's a lot of great tools you can use, such as your Apple Watch and closing your rings. But let's habit hack this a little bit step further. You know, I always provide a habit loop for you every Thursday on Habit Hack Thursday. So let's talk about a habit loop when it comes to a con of the closing your rings on your Apple Watch. So habit loop, again, is a cue, routine, reward. There's already so many habit loops you have throughout your day. When we're creating new habit hacks and habit strategies in our life, we have to create intentional systems, intentional habit loops in order to make habits work, to take action, and then make them stick. So let's talk about a con. So a cue. The watch tells you to move, or it tells you, oh, you haven't closed your rings today. The routine is turn the notification off and tell yourself it's okay based on what is going on that day or how you're feeling, and be like, it's just not in my capacity today, and move on. The reward is you're not obsessive, but rather you're being graceful. You're being graceful with yourself. Okay, so that could be a habit loop that you already have running through your mind. A pro habit loop when it comes to closing your rings is that cue, that watch dings to move. The routine is you get up and move. The reward is that's going to compound over time. You know, I'm a big fan of small movement that adds up to big transformation over time. And I love having the Apple Watch as a way to habit hack my health and get me to move. But friend, if it's becoming obsessive and it's becoming unhealthy, then I'd rather have you remove it from your life. If you need more custom habit hacking help, you can always grab a one-on-one call or grab the accelerator and let me help you habit hack your movement, mindset, and food freedom habits based on the challenges that you all have given me and over 60 custom habit loops to get your body moving, to find true food freedom, and just find confidence and lose the chaos in your life, my friend. It can be done. We just got to do it from a female perspective, and that's where I come into play, girl. All right, thank you so much again for being here. Again, so grateful for all of the listeners and for you all being here. If there's ever any guests or any subject matters you would love for me to habit hack with you, send me a message on Instagram. Everything's linked in the show notes. I love connecting with you all. I love it when I am able to talk to you all one-on-one and learn from you. That is how I've grown the podcast. That is how I have grown my programming, is because of you, my audience, and connecting with you and habit hacking based on my own life and yours as well. We're in it together, girl. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'll see you next week. Hey girl, real quick before you go, did you know I have a secret podcast where I talk all about why most habit strategies don't work for us women? Spoiler alert, it's not our fault. Visit bit.ly/atomic habits for women. It's linked in the show notes to access my secret podcast series and have your biggest aha moment about why and how women have to do habits differently. And if you love the podcast, the number one way you can thank me is to leave a rating and review in iTunes. That way more mamas can find the show. Love and appreciate you, friend. We'll see you next time.